back.
All right, we're live. I haven't been on one of these in a while.
Yeah.
I like the new Riverside format though, and I like the ties. Obviously, I
Thank
didn't
you.
get the memo, but
Right,
even if I had
exactly.
gotten the memo, I'm not wearing a tie.
This
Right.
whole
You,
thing.
you
Had
know
it
what's
20
funny?
years.
Because someone in the office was talking to me about, well, Pat, you should be wearing collared shirts. I really don't like polo shirts, so it's either for me it's a T-shirt or a tie and a suit. So I had to decide. I'm like, okay, I've
Yeah,
worn suits
that's
for.
Pete, by the way. You're
Yeah,
never
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
make him happy.
All right, all right. Well, Pete, this is for you, bro. All right.
There you go. For you, Pete. I
Yeah.
wear collars at least. I don't mind those, but I don't like polos either. I like a nice button down.
All right, look at her. Oh my goodness, she got like the little
I like
Christmassy
color.
stuff on there. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe I'll do that next time.
Right. No,
There you go.
I have a Christmas tie, by the way, just so you know. For what it's worth, it's coming out.
Break out the bedazzler.
Next couple of weeks, you're allowed to bring
Right.
that out.
All right.
So we're sitting here. We got Fed tomorrow, right? We're doing this on Tuesday. Yeah, Fed tomorrow. Oracle and Broadcom earnings this week. Only really, so a lot of stuff going on. This would seem to be a nothing day. Crypto spiked. The interesting thing, and Jeremy, I told you this in the chat. I've been seeing every day at like 10 o'clock, someone's going in and manipulating crypto. They've been selling it off. Today they did the opposite. Be interesting to see whether we get a pump and dump here. I don't know, starting to
that
level
a
off a bit. But
Key resistance area last time I looked.
I don't really
yeah, I
understand what's
don't
going on
know
with
if
crypto,
any of
Matt.
that matters a whole heck of a lot. If you've got someone, doing pump and dumps on this, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But
So, Jeremy, what's going on with crypto? I mean, are we long or short or risk on, risk off? I don't really. I have it I don't get it right now.
The way it's been chopping around, it's been decent for scalping, but I mean, as far as some of the swing traders are getting washed out in this mess. It's been a
Right.
bit volatile in that range, so it's really hard to go and just buy and hold at this point. It's something where people are going to be more into the trading of it.
Okay. All right. Anything else? I'm going to go hit up our guest here. So we have Laura Zorc on. Okay. Laura's the chairman of National School Boards Coalition. She's written some good books. She's on the kind of the right side of school, I don't know, governance or whatever the words are, advocacy, all these things. Talks a really good game. I'm going to say, give one of the best compliments I've ever given anyone. And I haven't told her this yet, I don't think. So I read Laura's book, right? And I have a lot of stuff going on with my school district.
Pat, audiobook, right?
Real book, dude. Honestly, dude. I'm a speed reader, by the way, so I can get it done pretty fast. But I wrote your review on Amazon this morning. I'm going to read it just so everyone knows. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Best nonfiction book I've read in 20 years. Sets standards for board leadership and behavior. I'm a regular parent who thinks our public schools are very unsafe and have taken several initiatives. Couldn't even spell that to make them
Not
safer.
a shock.
I've always been met with a surreal and staggering amount of pushback. The authors put all this in context and given me additional strength and clarity to keep going. Pretty good, you got to say. It's really good. So I'm really happy to read your book. I thought it was amazing. It's a great book. So Laura, tell me what you're all about, and then we'll go from there.
So as the chairman of the National School Boards Coalition, we mentor, support, and we collaborate with school board members that really believe in limited government, accountability, responsibility, educational freedom, and the rights for parents to really make decisions on their children's education. So our network of school board members represent over 4 million students sitting in the classroom right now. And what we believe is if we can really empower our local school boards to understand the budget, understand the financing, they can really drive the academic success of their school district. And it's really been a lot of work over the last 5 years, but it's just snowballing month after month.
Okay, so I mean, I want to just. We were talking about school safety earlier, so I'm just going to jump right into that because I think it helps maybe kind of highlight, like it's a case study of what I see happening, right? So I read that, the average expenditure on SROs, in the U.S. per child is $46, right? So that's $46 per kid is being spent on, school safety. What do you think of that number, right? And the one analysis I'm going to say is that I told these guys earlier is that, the analysis here is that the budgets of school safety spending is the word we use was roller coaster, right? So school safety spending is on a roller coaster. One administration is in, people care about this. The other admin's in, people care about that. That's where I see what you're doing is very important, because there's some legislative things I think are the only way they make this work. What are your thoughts on all that?
What we do know is that the number one concern of parents, you would think it would be academics, but it's actually safety. Are my kids safe the moment that they walk into those doors? And that is an element that our school board members are actually missing. And you will see that the parents are putting their children into private schools, they're homeschooling. You would think it would be because of the academic portion, but it is because of the concern of the safety of our students. So when you look at states like Florida that have heavily invested into hardening their schools, you see a higher respect of what's happening within those school districts. And I think that every school district, every school board that we work with, as you read in the book, we talk about security and safety. They normally push it off to the admin, but it's really the job of the school board to ensure that there's safety measures put in place for those school districts, and that starts with budgeting for them.
Okay. Let me give you another kind of juicy thing, right? So our PTO, right? We're a really kind of rich school. Our PTO raises $100,000. We have like 500 kids. They're spending like $200 per kid. They have $200 a kid to spend, right? To me, it looks like they're spending it on, balloon rides at carnivals and stuff like that. Do you think that the PTO should be kind of adding funding to this?
I think that it's great to have PTOs because that means that you have a higher level of parent involvement, but it's not really the job of the PTO to raise money where we have school boards that are putting money into areas that aren't meeting the needs of students. For example, we have a lot of social and emotional learning going on in our classrooms to combat the mental health, which is supposed to address the safety of our schools. We know that that's not working, but when it comes to our PTO, we love our PTOs because that means you have a higher parent participation. When you have a higher parent participation, that means you have a better outcome academically. But it should not be the PTO who has to raise the money. It should be the school boards that know how to efficiently manage the financial doings of the school district.
Right. Okay. So where do you stand on, more security, more, metal detection, more security officers, more AI enhanced camera stuff? I mean, I got a whole list that we can talk about later, but where do you stand on that? I mean, you're pro that, where would you go? Or what are the best solutions, by the way? I mean, you're the head. What do you want to do? We're going to follow you. Give us that initiative we're following. What do you want us to do?
Well, I was actually a school board member sitting on the school board whenever in Florida when Marjorie Stoneman Douglas took place. I'm 2 counties over from that, and immediately we stepped into action. Every school, not just the school district, every school needs a school resource officer. We know that the bad guys have a gun. We need good guys who have guns so that they can stop the perpetrator from going into these schools. But if you're in a smaller rural district, another solution to that is our guardian programs that you've seen in Florida, where Governor Scott said, okay, if you can't afford a school resource officer in every school, then let's train an adult in the facility to learn how to use that gun. You have a lot of pushback from that, and there is a lot of opposition to that. But there is a lot of good things that could come from that. So that is number one. Number two, you have to secure your facilities. You cannot be afraid. And the argument we hear all the time is, well, we don't want our children to feel like they're in a prison because you have the gates and you have the security.
I was going to say that too. So how do you respond to that?
Well, we're not in a day of feelings. We're in a day of reality, right?
Agree.
We have to
Totally.
secure Because a lot of our campuses, the way that they're designed now, they're open campuses, and we love that, so that children can walk from one pod to another and actually get the experience of going outside during the day. We don't want to take that away, but you have to be smart and sensible about this. You've got to put these fences around. You have to have one point of entry so that everyone coming into the facility, they have to actually have an ID and a badge when they go through. But before Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, we saw open campuses. You could come into the facilities anyway, and there wasn't really a way to monitor that. We saw the horrible shooting that happened in Uvalde. The policies weren't being acted out. You have to make sure as school board members you have smart policies, and not only do you have policies as school boards, but you have the staff that are following those policies and protocols. Because what we do know in Uvalde was that the door was propped open, and that is how that individual was able to get into that facility. So you also have to have, once you put the policies in place, you have to have staff that monitors those policies, and you just have to have the adequate funding. Not one did you hear me say we need to invest more into social and emotional learning, because we have to be real about this. It takes practical implementation, school resource officers hardening our schools, and making sure that we have protocols in place as how we can mitigate a lot of these safety issues that
I
we're
was going
seeing.
to let Jay jump in here, but hold on, Jay. I'm going to say one thing and ask a question, and you jump in. Yeah, please. Jay wants to talk, and I want him to talk. All right. So, number one, I lived in Parkland, and my kid would have gone to that school, but we moved, and then I lived out here when really close to the Saugus shooting out here, so I've been around that, number one. But number two, I had friends really involved in this thing that was in Minneapolis recently, at St. Incarnate, or that one. So there's, it's out there, and it's happening all the time. It's not just around the, it's not someone else. I think one issue is kind of like the NIMBY issue, right? To me, it seems like if I'm a parent, I see my own school, and I'm like, oh, this isn't happening at my school. We don't need this up the street. We're too, and I think that's really the prevailing attitude. Nobody really wants to take there's something wrong here. But I think the initiative, what I see, the attitude is nothing's wrong here. And you've highlighted this in your book, by the way, kind of like the boards are just stuck in these complacent old things. It's and when you try to deal with this, and I'm like a businessman, relatively smart, even those guys, Matt would argue I'm not, but you're kind of how can you people, am I missing something here? It's just it's really almost mind-numbing. It's surreal, And so that's number one. But my last point here is, you talk about following protocols, right? And I think that's an issue, and I think that's an issue in government in general. But how does the superintendent? I think our superintendent's a really nice, responsible lady. I even tell my wife this, I really like her, even though we're maybe on opposite sides of the argument. I feel like she's really has a handle on the issue, but I think she can't act, and maybe she can't act because she has the attorneys above her. Our school district, I think, is controlled by the insurance company attorneys, right? If there's a lawsuit, it's not even insurance; it's reinsurance companies. So we're in a massive pool, and so some dude from out of town comes in and he wags the tail. I think number one, and then number two, I don't think people at the bottom follow the protocols. So we have a long list of protocols at our school for stuff. My kid was bullied over and over and over, right? Principal didn't follow the protocols, right? And they're simple, straightforward protocols, you know what I mean? And so, to make a long story short, I won a suit for discrimination in federal court, for my kid. Took a long time, was a massive battle, pissed a lot of people off, right? So anyway, having said that, that's my 2 cents. Jeremy, why don't you jump in here?
I mean, yeah, I've had, a situation where one of my kids was being heavily bullied at school, and anytime we would go to confront the situation with the staff, I mean, it was always the bullies would pull the victim card and, take advantage of the system. And I'm almost wondering if some of the AI-enhanced surveillance cameras can actually pick up on that sort of thing and turn the tables on that, because I've seen a lot of times where bullies will pull up the victim card and just play the system. And also, there should be some better training for that, I believe.
Right.
At least somebody who can see through the crap. So. Doesn't have to be a
and
detective, but
yeah, and that is really what you're both talking about is a management problem.
yeah.
So, as school board members, what we're supposed to do is hire, fire, and hold the superintendent accountable. We are to oversee and just monitor the success of the school district, but our superintendent is supposed to be our lead manager, our lead advisor. So, if your protocols aren't being followed, that is a superintendent problem. I don't care how nice your superintendent is. Just like in the business world, you can have the nicest CEO, but if they're not producing and they're not turning things around, what do? We either call them in and we reprimand them, or we let them go. And that is what we're really trying to enforce with our school board members, is to use your power. Understand that it's not your job to get into the day-to-day, but you have to know enough to hold your superintendent accountable. So as school board members, once you implement, and that's why we always really push for parents to run for school board, because as parents, you actually have that access and you know what's going on in these school districts, right? Because your kids are there. So on the dais, you can pass policies, but is it really being implemented through the protocols? And that's where parents really make really great school board members, because what we know is if we pass a policy on the dais, we look for it being implemented in the schools. So if you're, I'm going to jump back over here to Jeremy. So part of safety and security is the bullying issue that we have. But the way that we saw a few years ago under Title IX, that was the system that was set up, that there is that victim mentality. So there is a lot of false wolf crying there. So we saw that as an issue. But as school board members, and that's why I always talk about school board members, we have so much power, we just don't use it. We have so much authority, but they don't know it's there. So it's up to school board members to make sure that you have the right student handbooks and you pass the right student policies, and that your superintendent is passing those through the procedures that he or she should be working on.
100%.
All right, Matt, any words of wisdom here yet?
He's muted.
You're muted, bro, we think. No.
Yeah, you're muted on the app.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. No, I'm just listening. I mean, I've got to go.
You know, Lord, Matt's trading in the background. He has like real jobs. You know, Jeremy and I don't. So
I am
he's actually
doing a
stuff,
little bit in the
just so you know.
background here.
I'm
yeah.
going to keep going. All right, I'm taking over, guys. Just so you know, I mean, whatever it is, I'm taking over. All right. So
Go for it.
let's just talk about some kind of vague things, right? So let's say you could put 100 cameras in the school with some AI stuff. It could identify all sorts of stuff. You name it, even behavioral stuff. Which, is that cool or not, or does that have to be done, or how far do you go, or all that?
Well, I think it's all above. Why wouldn't we have cameras in our schools? And that is a part of hardening your schools, is having the cameras. One area that you will never see cameras, because there's so much opposition from the associations and the teachers union, is in the classroom. But that could be an area that when we have discipline issues, we could really hone in on what the issues are. It's not about
the first place it should be. I mean, that's where all the action is. Like, I never, no one ever pinches you in the hall. It's always in the class or whatever. No, and I mean, we've had issues at our school where the kids act up, and wasn't all the behavioral analysis being done in the classroom, how kids interact with each other? I mean, that's where you see the stuff. It's not, people, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like the movies, you're going to hide under the camera and then hit the dude or whatever, kind of thing. I'm just kidding, but,
Well, as school board members, what you see is the opposition from the teachers unions. They do not want those cameras in the classroom. Even whenever sitting on the school board, we were trying, because there was a lot of fights happening in the bathrooms. And there's a lot of vaping that was happening. So what we were wanting to do, we're putting these monitors in. It would detect sound. So if there was a loud ruckus going on in the bathroom, it would detect that and then send it over to the school resource officer but we had members on the board that were concerned that was violating student safety in the bathroom. It wasn't detecting what they were saying and doing in there. It was detecting those certain areas. So
Just noise
there's
levels.
all these rights that are trying to be invoked, but it's just not really common sense in reality where we are in our world right now.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to skip and then go back a little bit. Let's talk about some like the. I've been in the settlement process at my school. Right. I have made some complaints. Part of our school's policies are that you can go into some kind of settlement or investigative process. Excuse me. Okay. So at our school, my kid was bullied. School didn't do anything. I can request an investigation. Right. Mm-hmm. The investigation is done by the school's attorneys. It's done by the school himself. My kid was analyzed by this nut job at the school who was like sissy somebody. And then the things come back that, oh, you're the worst person in the world and your kid is even worse. And you did. I mean, it's really kind of how it goes. It's one of those, right? So how does and then what's worse about that, just so you know, is that it's a fool's game because that if you're, according to like Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights settlements, right? If you're engaged in some other settlement process, you can't engage their settlement process. And this settlement process is a dead end. So you could be spending 3-4 months in this dead-ended settlement process and avoiding that. And that doesn't even take you to court, right? Not in California. That's a dead end. So you don't know that you would think, oh, yeah, I did my stuff. You actually have to do a whole different thing. You have to file a government complaint. And then that government complaint has, et cetera, et cetera. So number one, reflect on that. Like, so again, you're a school. And if you're being investigated, but the school district is the one paying the attorneys to investigate them. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like a conflict of interest. No, Jay? For sure, right? Even Jay would call it that.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, Laura?
So it is a
I
bias.
didn't put you on the spot, by the way, but I did.
No, we deal with this all the time. It is a bias system because you have human beings that are evaluating the situation of the complaints that is working for the individuals that you are making the complaint basically against. So it's protecting itself. The only protection that we have in states like California, New Jersey, Washington, Oregon is your elected school board members because you shouldn't even have to get to a lawsuit. You should not even have to get to that area of...
Nobody on our, elected officials have ever contacted me. I never contacted me on their own once. And I've reached out to them several times, no responses. I mean, again, I'm sure they have some liability, open air policy, blah, 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 blah. Still, it's kind of bullshit,
Well, it should have never got to the point that you had to do a complaint.
Right.
The first step, and we work with parents because parents need to understand the first step is to contact your school board members. It's the job of the school board member to sit with those parents and learn what's going on so that they can relay the information over to their superintendent and hold their superintendent accountable to look into the situation and try to mitigate it before it even gets to that point. If you really have a strong school board that understands that the superintendent works for them, it typically will be a school board that represents the community, which is the parents.
Right.
So it is a bias system. I agree.
I mean, it's our school boards. When I think of this, like the Harper Valley PTA song goes off in the back of my head. Trust me, it does. All right, next thing, right? So let's talk about laws, right? So like in our state, right? Individual employees of a school don't have accountability, right? So if a teacher, busts your kid's chops or does something you don't like, you can't sue that person, right? So explain, do you think that's fair, cool? Are you down with that? I mean, that doesn't seem fair to me. You know what I mean? Or right. Justice, I don't know the word.
Well, so that is one of the down areas of the public school system is the ability to hold our staff, our contracted individuals accountable because the ties to their their teachers unions. I'm trying not to be so negative here. I know I'm
Well,
sounding
no, but I
negative.
mean, it is negative. I get it. I
Um,
mean, it's a hard thing
yeah.
because, the reality is that, like, I read this book a couple years ago called The Purpose-Driven Life, right? Changed my life. And I have, like, some things I want to get done. I'm 60. I got, like, 5 years to do some cool change. And this is one of them, And it's hard because people don't like to hear it. I have a guy calling Matt telling him I'm a bad dude because I'm just trying to take down the school. Trust me, it just happened, by the way. So it is what it is, And I'm not, I'm a fighter, so I'm fighting back. You poked the wrong bear in this case, right? So I'm on, right? But so let's move forward, right? So you can't, if your kid gets hurt, you can't. So, like, for example, let's say I sue you, right? I can sue you in pro bono or pro per, excuse me, not pro bono, pro per. I can sue you, right? And if I get hurt by the school, I can sue the school, right? But my kid can't sue the school on his own or can't have his parents sue the school for the kid. The kid has to literally have an attorney to sue the school, right? So how is that fair? I mean, that means that no attorney is going to take these cases because you look at California, I think this kid got dropped out of like a window and the school like paid $30 or something, you know what I mean? And didn't even admit they were wrong. And just trust me, those are how the stories go, right? And so, like, again, like, how do you explain that? I mean, how you should explain it if you can. You probably can't, but it's not even your doing. But again, how does a parent like affect change? And then if you do, then the other side has this unlimited budget. And dude, I've sued the school, and the dudes send you like say all this bad stuff about you. They put you through these weird depositions. They send you all this paperwork. It's an array of legal mumbo jumbo that's just mind numbing that you just really can't win. There's no way you can win. So explain all that, please.
Well, and that's one unique aspect of the National School Boards Coalition, because here in DC we have access to a lot of legal advocacy groups that will take on cases. Now, when it's talking about being dropped, I'm going to assume
Well,
that was.
I rephrase. I take that back. Bad choice. I'm on a public podcast, but the number, that's how it looks. If you look through the cases, the amount, okay, you win 20 grand for this horrific stuff, and then the school doesn't have to say they did anything wrong. I mean, they just, because they buy you, they wear you down, so at some point you just take the 20 and run, and then, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your attorney after 4 years is like, dude, I can't do this anymore, So that's the story. So again, that was the wrong thing to say, but I will put some, I advise everyone to look at like court decisions in California that are school bullying related, and you look at them and it's like insane. The injustice is just weighted one way, like an insane amount.
Well, it definitely it's opposite of what the bullying policies and rules that were put in place were supposed to take care of. It's not addressing the issues of bullying. It's actually doing the reverse. What we're seeing, but there are a lot of great groups in every state, especially in the state of California. I can think of several groups that would love to work with parents to really go against some of these poor policies that are being passed in the school districts.
I'm going to say something else, right? So, my son was bullied. The school at our school has this great acronym. Your book has some cool acronyms, by the way. It's like amazing, like the non-acronyms out there. But the acronyms for some anti-bullying campaign, like Chester or Buddy or something, something like this. And it's just ridiculous because they don't do anything. They talk about Buddy all day. And, we have like the National Blue Ribbon Award in front of our school, right? So I got the application that our school sent to the National Blue Ribbon place. And my son was being bullied that year. I had several complaints out. There was actually a federal lawsuit on file, and we still run the award. And under the app, it said, "Oh, any bullying going on in your school?" "Oh, no, but we have the buddy system," or whatever. And I know you don't have anything to do with that, but I mean, the hypocrisy is that deep. And so I think it's hard, like I said, the whole NIMBY thing, if the schools are out there giving these blue ribbon awards and if there's something that's going on underneath the surface is the true BS, which you state in your book here again, this is what's going on in our district, whatever, the top level, whatever this is called, the school board leadership. The school board leadership is living in this pipe dream fallacy world, and people that come in and challenge it, they're just shot down. This is what your book says to me. And so I love it. Jay, anything to add? Then we're going to go into some stocks. Pull up a chart, yeah?
Yeah, I was going to add, as far as like school hardening the schools goes, I'm not aware of any initiative to like hire people who are military trained for certain staff members, but just to tell a story, the middle school my kids attended in Missoula, Montana, not to out anybody, but I was good friends with the head janitor there, and he was retired Army, like E5, like really highly trained individual, and in that school, literally, he would, help the local SWAT team train for active shooter situations, and I mean, he was, being asked to be a little less aggressive with them at some points. So I mean, that's the kind of guy I would love to have in my kid's school as a faculty member, and be able to have some line of defense should a shooter enter a school. So, I mean, is that something that's kind of considered?
That is, I mean, when you're in states, like Florida that believes in things like the school resource officers and the good guys should have the gun in the schools, you see the head of the Florida School Safety Committee was a former military ops person, and we need more individuals like that are making sure the policies are implemented and the protocols are put in place. That's what, instead of spending all this money on social and emotional learning, millions and millions of dollars, we need to make sure that we have individuals like that put in place. But I since we are on a finance podcast, I do want to say that when you have a well-run school board, a school district, we know that the local economy is driven by the workforce. And if you don't have an adequate population of students coming out that are educated, then you have a poor workforce, a poorer economy. So the number one employer in most counties is your school district. I lived in a small county. My budget as
Ours
the
too.
chairman of
I'm a big county, and I think ours is too.
Yeah.
our budget it's $400 million for 14,000 students.
Wow.
You should be getting a high quality education when it
Exactly.
comes to that,
And
right?
at least someone
And-
calling you back or whatever, like once. You know what I mean? Do
Right,
the right thing
exactly.
once. I've given these guys a chance to do the right thing 50 times. I think they've done it once, actually, so should take that back. So you think they do it twice. You know what I mean? Right?
One of the things that I would throw in here, which will get us banned from YouTube, so I apologize. But the thing that, and again, I don't have a dog in this fight, I've got adults, but the thing that sticks out to me like a sore thumb and seems rather obvious, so, I mean, Pat and I are both near the same age. Pat's obviously older, as you can tell. But back when we were in school, the idea of a school shooter wouldn't have even computed.
Yeah.
The idea of having to secure schools wouldn't have even computed. I mean, we were told, don't talk to strangers, don't take candy from strangers. I mean, that type of stuff. But all of these things we're talking about wouldn't made any sense to us. And the thing that I wonder is what's changed and why isn't some of that money looking at that? And I mean, I think I know the answer, unfortunately, but just, my 2 cents on the issue.
What do you think, Laura?
Well, Matt, I'm not sure when you say you don't have a dog in the fight, does that mean you don't have children in the school district or you don't have
Well, no,
children?
yeah, so my youngest is 23, so I
Okay.
don't have kids in the school
Well-
district anymore.
Grandkids coming. Those
But
daughters
when
just
I
got
did,
married, by the way. So you got some grandkids coming. A little Matt.
I
you know,
have
the third's
grandkids coming
down the
along,
pipe.
so yeah, or I think I mean, one day, I mean, I don't
So
think,
still,
one day
you're
I
going to
hope.
be more into it when you're a grandparent than you are as a parent. As you
Oh,
get
yeah,
older
yeah,
like me, Dave, you
without a
see it
doubt.
even more
And-
clearly.
And I was into it when my kids were in school. I mean,
Okay.
we had, there were drills and there were things,
Right.
and they'd come home and talk about this one kid, and he's a little bit, and just like, oh crap.
We have to call him
all
a
right,
choo-choo
make
'cause he comes
sure
to
that
school
kid
as a
likes
choo-choo
you.
train. That guy? No,
What's that?
just kidding. Never mind. That's a whole different story. We'll
Well,
talk about
I
it in
think-
episode, next chapter.
We all know
I
that
think
kid.
Matt raises the number one myth that we encounter is that if I don't have a dog in the fight, so why should I really pay attention to this? Let me
Right.
tell you,
Yeah,
the
Matt.
reason that you need to pay attention to this is because the number one, and when you look at your property tax bill, most of your property taxes and most of your
Oh, yeah,
taxes
totally.
goes to pay for this education, this system that's not working for the local community. So
I'm sure Greenwich High is struggling, though, by the way, Matt, just so you know. Sure, they got some problems there.
I would assume that they're not.
But we definitely we've seen the school safety issues going back. The school shooters has been going back quite a long time. But because of social media and because of the hyper polarized politics that we have now, it's not helping. That's for sure. But that doesn't mean that we're naive and we don't put all these protocols in place because we don't want our kids to feel like they're in cages. We don't want to feel like they're in jails. No, but we have to be smart about it. But a lot of this money in our school districts, and that's why we spend a lot of time. My background's forensic accounting. We spend a lot of time on the budget because you have to know where the money's going in order to
Exactly.
know how to shift
I
it
love
into
the
other
forensic accounting part.
areas.
Exactly. All right, so last thing on this.
Oversight.
Real quick, social media, any thoughts on that? Stay away, it's the best, it's the worst. Don't ever do it. Are you have any real thoughts, or just kind of like everyone else, it is what it is, can't do anything about it? Or how do you manage that?
Are we talking about social media in our schools?
I guess, yeah, we're talking, yeah, I guess, something. All of it.
I think,
Bullying on
as a
social media, there's a whole policy about that. It seems like the kids are being trained more about that than they are just regular bullying. Like, if someone calls you bad names on social media, make sure you do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. I'm not sure that. Okay, so we can move on. All right, so Jay, pull up some charts, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got one up
So
right
let's
now.
talk about this one. Okay, so just so you know, Laura, we're an investment firm, right? We make what's called an ETF, which is an exchange-traded fund, right? And we basket stocks together. We do a lot of things thematic, right? Earlier this year, we had a fund we were trying to get off the ground. It was symbol was GUNZ, but it was mostly public safety stocks, right? So
It was all public safety.
yeah, well,
stuff,
yeah, well, there were some gun stocks in there, and I don't know if those are. Okay, so guns are public safety, but there were a lot of names that were like public safety services, not specifically guns. Most of the names are like software or some kind of security detection, that kind of thing, right? So this one is Evolve, right? They make security detection systems, right? Like they're at airports or whatever, and they do business with schools. I mean, they're the main player. So that's why I bring it up. So, Jeremy, what do you think about this? So let me say one more thing. There's something called technical analysis, right? And technical analysis is, let's say, like looking at this chart here and not even really paying attention to what the stock is. But in theory, you're reading the tea leaves on this, and there are guys that do this, and they get paid a lot of money to do it because sometimes it works, right? And Jeremy's one of those, right? So, Jeremy, what do you think of this one here, Evolve Tech? And these guys are, security systems.
It's trending up from support pretty well off the 200-day moving average, and there's a pretty easy move to reversion here on the upper end to about 7.23 a share. Technical analysis wise, great company, by the way.
Any thoughts on this, Matt? Anything?
Yeah, undercut and rally at the 200-day moving average back. I'm sorry about the fire engines. Back about 2 weeks ago. I mean, yeah, it's a stock I'm not in at the moment because where I'm concerned, and if I were investing in kind of personal safety stocks, is where's the catalyst?
Right.
So, I worry that ship has sailed a little bit, but now, if we were hearing that, hey, schools are going to make a pivot and are going to start spending money on technology like Evolve has. And if I remember correctly, they've got some pretty cool tech
They do.
where they can scan for, all sorts of stuff. That would get me interested. I just think we're in such a target-rich environment
Elsewhere.
of investment themes.
Yeah.
I want there to be a catalyst, and I hope that there is. Now, this is a dog I do have, in the fight. I've got 2 kids in New York City and 1 kid in Chicago, and they've all got personal safety stuff because those are 2 of the least safe cities, at least in the U.S., if not, if not broader. So that's something that's got me very
What's the name of the taser
concerned.
company again?
Axon.
Yeah, pull that one up,
Axon.
John. AXON. So that was also in that portfolio. So this is a taser company. How's this been doing lately? I haven't really been. Oh, it's come back a lot.
Yeah. So I got stopped out of this one.
Let me
We
address
do have a
something.
2X on Axon. I do like the company, but obviously I'm one of the only ones, so I'm not in it at the moment.
I think we touched on this a little bit before, but Matt said something, so Matt's an investor, right? He's a really smart dude, smarter than me, smarter than Jay, so he knows what's up, right? And he's telling you, no one wants to buy any of these things because there's no catalyst. And I think there's a little chicken and the egg thing here. If there's no one, spending on
Right.
the stocks, there's going to be no investment in the tech. There's no investment in the tech. The whole machine slows down. There probably needs to be some legislative work done to, have some stable budgets because no investor is going to jump into stuff that's up and down all over the place until there's some catalyst. So we need like a long-term growth plan that's not up and down, year to year. That's kind of what he's saying. Do you have any? Can you address that or any thoughts on that? Or I don't know. It's just probably there's no real solve, but how do we start addressing that? Laura, yeah, no?
Oh, you're talking to me.
Yeah.
Well, I think that one of the areas that we could do with Congress is really highlight the level of support that over the last 4 years that went into mental health. We should shift it over into the hardening and the safety aspects. And I think through Congress, there's areas of opportunity for this to incentivize companies. There's even government entities to enact some of these. I was just reading what they provide, and I think it's spot on to what we need now. Technology. We have the hardening, we have the school resource officers, but now we actually need the technology to go into these areas and combat this.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's going to take some investment, really. I think Okay, well, let's move on. All right, so to pull up this one, Jared, at NAPCO, NSSC, Nancy, Sam, Charlie. So these guys make security equipment, lights, devices, locks, that kind of thing. So you go into the school, at our school, you push a button, you talk, they get in. They make that kind of stuff, right? So what do you think about this chart? This one looks pretty good, actually, now. Like, this is a good one, no, Matt?
What stock is that one?
NAPCO, NAPCO Security. They make locks, doors. This was also in the guns thing, NSSC.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like a bad chart there.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And
So,
that-
yeah. Go ahead.
That kind of goes along with what we're seeing. That is one of those hardening elements. It's not the technology elements that you were talking about the last time, and that correlates what I'm seeing in the school districts.
Okay. So I mean, it kind of correlates to the stock because things. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. All right. So, where am I? I said that one. Allegiant, ALLE, Apple, Larry, Elephant, or Edward, I guess these days. So Legion, same kind of thing, security hardware, locks, et cetera, not as strong. All right, how about another one? ADT, this is, your standard ADT. I don't know if this fits, but it did pop up on my screen. ADT. What do you think of that? Matt, what do you think of this one? This has like a mean reversal thing going on, or no? That's
Yeah, it looks more like a short.
Okay, my bad, see? All right,
This
see,
is
Laura? These guys
a
know
failed
what they're talking
reversal.
about. All right. All right, there's one more. Oh, wait, hold on. There's a couple more here. SSTI. This is interesting. This is the gunshot detection thing. I think there's a lot of, Laura, just so you know, so this was like a hot stock a little while ago. It's come back a lot. I think you got a lot of publicity for some gunshot detection. I think when Trump just got in, these stocks all took off. People thought there was going to be this massive change. Obviously, they've been, it hasn't occurred quite as fast, so they've all come back to earth. But this SSTI, there's some other tech. I think this is kind of low tech, maybe, but there's some other higher tech shot things I'm going to talk about in a minute. These are private companies. But what do you think about something that is that? I mean, again, you're probably going to say that's not too evasive, but is gunshot detection off the table? I hope you say no, but you might not. I don't know.
I'm trying to see how it would fit into what we're doing. I know that local law enforcement definitely uses this quite a bit, but I'm not really seeing how that could benefit.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay,
it would be it. We would utilize. Here's how it would work for us. We would utilize this through our local law enforcement, who is a partner of a school district, versus us going out and having a contract to have this.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so they would come and put it in the schools. Okay, because there's another company that has, in theory, a higher tech version of this, William Yellow, Tom Charlie, Y-Tech, right? So this is supposed to be a little AI-powered gun detection. Again, this is a really speculative stock. I don't think it's really, that big of a company. But, I'm just pulling out the names. And again, this is what we do. So, and I'm, trying to draw some correlations, all right? All right, so let's move forward. Let's talk about some of the, so Laura, you probably know the difference between public and private companies. We don't trade private companies, right? We keep there's no stock or whatever available, but quite often, especially in these kind of forward-looking things like this, a lot of the best companies are, I don't know, some of the best companies are private, and they're smaller, they're more entrepreneurial, all that. So, let's start with there's a company called Alertus, right? They do mass notification system for schools. What do you make of like the mass notification thing? And again, everyone uses it, but like, is there a better way to do it, or a higher tech way? Or you must have some real serious thoughts on this one, right? Because this has got to be one of the big things for you, no, or not?
So the mass notifications, those are systems that typically should be going through the state, the governor's office, and they should be implementing that through the Department of Education's within the state.
Yeah. You can get
Every
off the charts,
state
yeah.
needs.
Sure.
Every state should have something implemented, but unfortunately we know that they don't, so that is an area of opportunity in many states.
Right. Okay. So how
Fortified-
about something- Go ahead.
Fortify Florida is an example of what you're talking about, and I'm not really sure who holds that. If Fortify Florida is a part of the network you're talking about in
I
that
see.
stock, but that is an example of what that is.
Okay. How about somebody like this company, Raptor Technologies, right? They make something called Badge Alert. Silent
Yes.
wearable alerting at the press of a button. What do you make of something like that?
So that is very used throughout the school districts, and those are used at the school sites. Whenever someone comes into the front door, they normally have to have their driver's license, and they scan it in that system, and then it prints the badge. If there's any notifications that pop up, that individual doesn't go past the entry of the foyer there of the school. So those are very good systems. I know that they're expensive systems, and a lot of the PTOs and PTAs spend a lot of money time trying to raise the money to buy those per school site, because they are quite expensive to
Well, so-
implement.
This is what I stated earlier. I mean, yeah, there's a conflict. That's not what the PTO should be doing, but
No.
I don't know. To me, it's what they should be doing, and I think it's ridiculous we don't, honestly. But all right, so next one. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. AI powered like firearm detection software, or cameras in school detects firearms. That kind of thing. There's a couple companies, Zero Eyes, OmniAlert. We touched on that before, but that's maybe not even so much where you are on that, but like what challenges does that face? It seems like that type of stuff is going to face a lot of challenges. I mean, it's obvious, I guess, but like any thoughts on all that and how that's going to grow, or how can it grow, or why should it grow, all that?
Well, I think it's unfortunate because it always takes a tragedy for government to implement these technologies that are here for us right now to put in place to prevent these issues. But unfortunately, what you probably see during the time of one of these crises is you have school districts, you have government buildings that are they're running out to buy these products to put them in afterwards, because we're always reactive and we're not always looking ahead. And that's why in this book that we wrote, we try to really put those tools in place for our school board members to start looking at these issues before they happen. So I do see a need for everything that you've talked about, unfortunately, because it's not the hot topic in the mainstream media, you're not going to have a spike in it right now.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So Matt's right again. Sadly.
Yep,
Oh, no, well,
needs a catalyst.
Right again, Matt.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
well.
I mean,
It's
I
unfortunate.
thought that
You're
one
9
of
for
the
10 this week.
things. What's that?
You're 9 for 10 this week.
Yeah, I usually am. I thought that one of the things we would get from the Trump administration is a lot more spending on this stuff and a lot more kind of highlighting, kind of like, so we run, just so you know, a European aerospace and defense ETF. And that's gotten $1 billion in inflows because Trump basically told NATO, hey, you guys are on your own. And that got a lot of news. And now the NATO countries are spending, with their own companies. I thought we would see something similar with kind of personal safety. I thought we'd see it too with the prison stocks. I mean, Geo and CXW. And we haven't.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So Laura, we try to make this to an hour, so I got one more thing to ask. I'm actually looking at your book. I did read it, The Real Thing. If you can see it, I even put yellow tags in there. So we covered most of it. But I want to ask you this because I missed this part. You said, or your book said, the Student Code of Conduct is an enforceable document that provides overreaching guidelines for addressing safety and security issues. Blah blah blah. So it seems to me that our Student Code of Conduct is malleable, right? Depending on who you are. You also talked a little bit about nepotism. I mean, there's a whole aspect of nepotism, I think, that comes into this, or favoritism, or I don't know, a lot of things, right? So, and Jeremy will comment, we've talked about this, so he feels the same way. So,
Yeah.
What's the question? How come how come our school code of conduct really is not a code of conduct? It's just whatever. It's it's a fidazzle. It's like what's that guy's who's the
Right, it's a
actor,
check mark.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what
Like
we have
Matthew
with,
McConaughey said in Wall Street or whatever that movie. It's a fidazzle. It's a fidazzle. Right? Not
Right.
Wall Street.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey was not in
Not Wall Street, but the other Wall Street movie. He was the broker in the tower with the movie with Leo DiCaprio. What's that one where he was the broker? When he was. What's that movie? It wasn't Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall
Street,
Street.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's a fidazzle. It's a fidazzle. It's like that. So go. Sorry, I forgot what the
Shiny
question
object.
was. But what was the question? Yes, I asked you, so I should know. It's about school policies. Why does that seem so like I don't know, fidazzle.
So when you have when you have kids that are in a school district, there is a student policy handbook that should be passed every year by the school board, and it really should be the school board that takes a look at that and makes sure that it aligns with the safety and security and sets the culture and climate that they want to set in their schools. But what we do know is a lot of times it's just a check mark that they want to get off the list, the school district staff. So it's just really rushed through and it's not really thought through. But that is really a powerful tool to mitigate a lot of the issues that we see right now with bullying, with one of the issues that we didn't talk about, we have a lot of kids that skip class just to go to the bathroom to vape. Vape is a huge issue right now within our schools, and it really is hindering our ability to
Right.
teach and learn in the classroom. So there's a lot of issues going on, and that student handbook could address all this, but it's not.
Right. Well, I mean, again, there's handbooks, but if you're again, all right. So I'm going to go back to your book. Great book again, by the way. And then I'm just going to ask you to come back with what people can do to change. Jeremy, I want you to pull up at least tell Jeremy what to pull up so when people know where to find you, what the best spot, all that. But I'm just going to quote your book. This is kind of what I said. I actually made these comments to you earlier I wrote about your book, and this talked to me the most. Right, as a board member. You may sometimes feel like you're against the wall of resistance in a system designed to protect itself rather than promote meaningful change for students. While the challenges may feel overwhelming, every small effort you make can contribute. So, another one of the things I always say to myself is kind of think locally, act globally. I mean, that's old school weird stuff. But, I think, unless you're going to step up, locally, why are you talking about, what's going on in Washington? I mean, you can do the damage locally if you want to. It's harder because you have to look at people in the eye. No one wants to do that. But, you have to do it, I think. So, again, you've given me a lot of, positive things there. So, anyway, give me your last thoughts here. Like, what should people do? Or where should, and again, Jeremy, why don't you pull up a website for you, will you? Like, pull up a screen and get something up
Yes.
here, yeah?
So we are at schoolboardscoalition.org. We're the National School Boards Coalition. One way, that is what we're all about. We're all about supporting local school board members so that they can implement policies and change on the local level, because that's where it's happening. That's where the learning is happening, is in our classrooms right now in our local school districts. So we really try to empower our school board leaders to be leaders and not followers of just the status quo of what's going on in a system that we know where kids can't read on grade level and the mathematics are failing. So what I encourage each and every one of you, it doesn't matter if you have a child in school or not, you're a taxpayer and you care about what's happening with this country, you need to really consider running for school board. We need individuals that are business savvy, and we need individuals that are parents. We need all different types to sit on that school board, because what we see right now are just the same old, which is retired teachers, retired administrators, consultants, but we're not really seeing the change that we need because it's just the same individuals. And so that's my encouragement. Run for school board.
It's nationalschoolboardcoalitions.org, right? Is that it?
It's
Yes?
it's School Boards
Oh,
Coalition.
School Board Coalition.
Yes. School Boards with an S, coalition.org.
School boards, coalition.
So we have state chapters throughout the country, and we are looking for individuals that we can help mentor. And if you're someone that's interested in running for the local school board, we'd love to help you with that. We have a 6-week candidate academy. School boards with an S.
Boards. C.
Coalition.
L-I-T.
Yes.
Schoolboardcoalition.org.
.org. Yes.
There it is.
There
Yeah,
we-
it is.
there we
it is,
go.
right? A J, my man.
Perfect.
Okay. All right.
I was.
I feel like I want to ask you some more, but I'm going to let you off the hook here. I totally appreciate this so much. I mean, it's really been an honor to have you on. I wouldn't say that. I thought your book was great. I think you're doing great things. It's tough out there. I got to say. I mean, you got you got a very important task.
Well, thank you. Can I just say that they can go to Amazon
Oh,
and
yeah.
they can actually obtain the book there.
You know
or
what?
they,
I'll put that link in our YouTube, Jay. Don't
Okay.
let me forget that. I'll put the link to the book on our YouTube.
Right in the
I mean,
description.
you guys should definitely be reading this book. Again,
Yes.
not for me. I'm not running for the school board, but it made me realize what our school board should be, and and it gave me an idea of what I'm thinking in context of what the school board should be thinking. And it just gave me a lot of peace of mind, is all I'm saying. So I'd read it. I don't think you need to read it because you're running for the school board. I think you need to read it because you know what a school board should really be doing, how they should be acting. And clearly mine's not. It's beyond not. It's really bad.
well, Jeremy and Matt, I think that Patrick would make a perfect school board candidate. What do you think?
Oh,
Agree.
I would vote for him if we were in the same.
right. Yeah.
Same
Well,
state.
you never know. I mean, you never know.
No,
It's-
they
maybe
wouldn't
in the
allow you in
cards,
Connecticut, so I do know.
It may be in the cards. All right. What'd you say? I heard that. I didn't catch
I said they wouldn't allow you in Connecticut, and I'm not
right.
moving to California, so we're not going to be in the same state.
Yeah, it's funny though. Matt does raise an interesting point, right? There's some of these states are hard because it's like in California, you start talking about this stuff, and I don't know, it puts you're backed into a corner pretty much right out of the gate. It's hard. That's the thing. Everything's hard. I mean, that's the issue I think most people have. I run for school board, and I'm putting my name. I'm just going to get all sorts of weird attacks on social media. People are going to say stuff about me. it's just the nature of the beast, and I've had it happen to me, you know. And all I ran for was school site council. You know what I mean? So it's. But you know what? Just so you know, Laura, I plan on doing something. Everyone here knows. In the next couple of years, I may go out there and bang something out. But you know, it may be like something. We'll see.
Well, I wouldn't
So
give
look
up
out.
in California because we have great school board members that are representing the coalition there. We have in Simi Valley, that is actually where our chair is, and then you have great school board members in Chino. They're all over California, so we need individuals like you to step up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It makes it warms my heart. You guys, my favorite one of all time, guys. So I'll be promoting this one. Laura, you're gonna make millions of dollars from this podcast. I promise you.
Well, I'm going to tell you, school board members is kind of on the ballot
$4 a book.
with mosquito control. No one ever pays attention to school board, but it's one of the most important things that we need to pay attention to on the local level because it really drives state and national levels of the economy, having a great workforce. And I would strongly encourage, if this is something that you're passionate about, we're always looking for contributors to help support.
Obviously, I'm going to stay in touch with you. Well, I mean, anything I can do, you just let me know. You know what I mean? Please.
Thank
I
you.
still have a couple kids in school, so I'll definitely pay more attention.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Have a great day, guys. See you. Thanks, man.
Bye.
Make sure to subscribe, everybody, somewhere.
Yeah, like and
you Figure it
subscribe.
out. Like and subscribe. All right. Later.